All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Modus RX audio experience. I am Dr. Eric Wallace here live from our recording studio at the clinic, and it is a beautiful Wednesday morning. I am excited today to talk a lot about shoulder health, and particularly one of the biggest reasons that you will have shoulder pain in the near future without knowing it. So this comes on the heels of a little interesting self-experiment, unintentional self-experiment I had 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I picked up some really nasty shoulder pain after a workout I had done on very little sleep. So basically didn't practice anything that I preach, and felt fine during the workout, but woke up in the middle of the night next day and could hardly move my shoulder, and went through the whole kind of evaluation process on myself. And lo and behold, believe it or not, it's the exact same thing that I see on so many of the people that I have with shoulder pain. So that's the topic of today, is one of the main reasons you're going to have shoulder pain but don't know it yet. And we're going to cover that in a little bit. First, hope everybody's doing well. We got a couple things coming up. We will be in attendance at the Big Impact Games next weekend, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. That's the 17th and 18th. And we will be there live helping some of the CrossFit athletes crush it. So if you are listening and you will be in attendance there, we look forward to seeing you. Also, you've probably heard already that we have our free e-guide for shoulder health. Please, if you are struggling, make sure you take a look at that and start to wrap your head around some of the things that you can do for your shoulder, ways that we can help. Pain is individual for sure, but there are so many common threads and patterns that we see with our overhead athletes and throwers here that we want to help you. So make sure you look at our e-guide, and I'm sure our lovely assistant Haley has mentioned that already. So throwers and overhead athletes, listen up. Shoulder pain. One of the biggest reasons that you will have shoulder pain, but you don't know it yet, is something called your thoracic spine. All right. It is your mid back from basically the bottom of your rib cage up to the bottom of your neck. And it is incredibly important for your shoulder health. All right. If you don't have a way to assess this, if you don't have somebody who's looked at this, if you are somebody who is repeatedly pressing weight overhead, repeatedly doing handstand type work, repeatedly hanging from a bar, or is a thrower of any sort, quarterbacks, baseball, softball, javelin, any of these different events that you are going to need to throw something for, make sure you are listening up, okay? Because what we often find, and what I found in myself 2 weeks ago, was that the shoulder itself is 9.9 out of 10 times going to be the thing that's going to take the brunt of the stress, i.e., that's where you're going to have your pain or your symptom. But that is rarely the problem area, okay? So what I want you to think about is the base of your shoulder, right? Think about the shoulder. So your shoulder is a ball and socket, and then ball and socket attaches to your shoulder blade. But then you have another base beyond the shoulder blade, which is your thoracic spine and your rib cage. Okay, so what often happens with a lot of our individuals that have shoulder pain is that mid back, that thoracic spine, that rib cage does not move very well. And it is very common when we have individuals that have one-sided shoulder pain, we will find that side, that thoracic spine, that rib cage is actually tight and restricted compared to your uninvolved side or your non-symptomatic side. So what happens is we need that area. If you're on video right now, or if you're just listening, make sure you think about this a little bit. If I'm a thrower and I'm a right-handed thrower and I need to rotate and cock that shoulder way back, right, to get good range of motion, to get set in that layback position. That layback position is what we call the maximal position of rotation at the shoulder when we're back here, right? And if I don't have the ability for my mid back and my rib cage to extend or become more upright, it gets very challenging for me to get as much rotation in the shoulder as I would want. And what happens is if that motion doesn't happen at the mid back, then something has to compensate either at the shoulder or at the shoulder. Well, the shoulder blade is not going to happen. So it has to happen at the shoulder blade. I'm sorry, it has to happen at the ball and socket of the shoulder. Because the shoulder blade can't tip back if the upper back isn't tipping back and extended. So that mid back and that thoracic spine is incredibly important for you reaching your best position for throwing in that external rotation. Likewise, overhead athletes, if you are pressing weight overhead frequently or you're hanging from a bar, right, to get the arms up overhead and get that ball and socket in a good, healthy position and let all the muscles around that ball and socket, i.e. the rotator cuff, do their job efficiently, there has to be movement and extension at that upper back and that thoracic spine, because that's what allows your shoulder blade to tip back. And if your shoulder blade can tip back, then you can put that ball and socket in a good position. So everybody that's watching or listening, I will do a quick example of what's happening here, and then we're going to call it a day. I got a quick hitter for you, but I do ask if you have any questions about this concept of upper back, thoracic spine, and rib cage mobility, and how it is one of the number one contributors to shoulder pain without you knowing it. Make sure you reach out to us. So everybody watching or listening, what I want you to do is sitting or standing, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to have you slouch, okay? And I'm going to have you take your arm, and I'm either going to, if you're an overhead athlete, somebody who presses a lot of weight overhead or has to do a lot of things overhead, I'm going to ask you to elevate your arms, but keep your slouched position, all right? And then if you're more of a thrower, I'm going to have you stay in that slouched position, and then take your arm, bring that elbow up in line with the shoulder, and try to wind your arm up like you're going to throw something, like you're getting back in that layback position to throw something, okay? So imagine, just think about how that feels, right? Try it, overhead, rotation, right? And that's kind of slouching. Now, personally, what ends up happening with me is I don't feel like I go very far, and I end up getting a lot of strain through the front top of my shoulder. Now, compare that to sitting up nice and tall, right? Chest out, head high, nice and tall, and now go ahead and come up overhead. All right, now I can take my arms almost past my ears, right, beyond my head, essentially. And then if I stay tall and I do that thrower's motion, right, I get a heck of a lot more rotation at the shoulder. So this is a simple way to test how important this is, because what happens with a lot of us is maybe we don't stay in that exaggerated slouch posture, but in some way, shape, or form, we certainly don't have the ability to kind of extend and reverse out of that on our involved side. And then if you can imagine what that does to the shoulder, you can kind of feel that a little bit with that test. And you're probably doing that right now without knowing it. So you don't have a problem yet. But if you add enough volume, add enough repetition, add enough weight, have a rough night of sleep like I did, whatever it is, and you go and combine that with lack of upper back mobility, that shoulder will eventually potentially pay the price for you. Okay. I'm not in the business of fear mongering. I'm not in the business of saying that we have a good way to predict injury. But this is one of those things that every time I have an overhead athlete or a thrower who is struggling with shoulder pain or stiffness, I will invariably look at that, and I can almost guarantee, like I said, 9 times out of 10 that they're going to have problems. The beauty of it is, if the upper back is moving wonderfully, we know the shoulder blade has the potential to get in a good position. So then what we're probably realistically looking at is some sort of strength stability problem in the shoulder blade or the rotator cuff, and down the line we can go. All right. So if you are an overhead athlete or you are a thrower and you have not had this assessed, you've not assessed yourself, you've not had us assess it, what the heck are you waiting for? This is too important to neglect. Make sure you get this situated. Okay. So that's what I got for this beautiful Wednesday. Like I said, I hope everybody is having a great week. Really excited about the start of football season. Excited about working with some of our rotational athletes coming up here in a month or so. We got our golfers, our softballers, our baseballers. We're going to have a lot of good stuff for you. So But make sure going into this off season, we're looking at those upper backs and those thoracic spines. Okay. It's going to keep your shoulders happy and healthy and keep you performing at your best for a long time. Hope everybody's doing well. Once again, this is Dr. Eric Wallace from the Modus RX Audio Experience, and we will talk to you soon.